What is going on, y'all? FaizSportsTalk back at it with another video talking some NFL, and here to talk about the Chicago Bears. So if you're a Bears fan and you are not subscribed to the channel, you are going to want to do so, folks. The best, latest, greatest Bears content you can find is right here. You're tuned in right now, so might as well just subscribe while you're at it. And make sure to hit me up on my social media, guys. Follow me on my Twitter, my Instagram. And speaking of that, this is actually where the story, the rumor that I want to talk about today originated. It was something that kind of was being discussed on social media, and it just kind of took its, own way into becoming a story, if you will. And that is, of course, what you see in the title, which is, could the Chicago Bears make a play for quarterback Sam Darnold of the New York Jets? Okay, I know you're thinking, Faiz, what the heck? Why are we talking about this? Where is this coming from? I'll explain. Don't freak out. I'll explain. So let's talk about this. This is a rumor. This is nothing confirmed. No actual reports on it. But I wanted to talk about it because I believe it's important, and I believe it is something that we need to start thinking about as Bears fans, because 2021, the quarterback situation, yeah, it's looking pretty bleak. All right, so let's talk about it. All right, so as mentioned before, this is not an official report. This is not something that's been reported by an official NFL reporter or anything like that. All right, this is a rumor / idea. And the reason I want to talk about it is because I believe it's important. Usually I don't talk about, rumors as much and things that are not legitimate, if you will. But the reason I want to talk about this is because, like I mentioned, it's important, and I'll get to that in a second. But number two, it's because a lot of you guys reached out to me and actually wanted me to talk about it and wanted my opinion on it. And you guys drive the show. I want to talk about what you guys want me to talk about. And so that's why I wanted to talk about this, all right? So, Sam Darnold to the Chicago Bears. Where is this even coming from? Well, number one, the Jets are an absolute mess. They are a dumpster fire. They are hot garbage. And at this rate, they are headed for the worst record in the NFL, which would mean that they are headed for the number 1 overall pick in this year's upcoming draft. All right? And in this year's upcoming draft, no matter what team it is, no matter who you are, if you have the number 1 overall pick, you have got the draft rights to draft Trevor Lawrence. Oh, there is no debate about it. The number 1 pick is going to be Trevor Lawrence. And like I mentioned, it does not matter what team it is. Maybe outside of Kansas City, right? In Seattle. You are drafting Trevor Lawrence, but then again, obviously those teams are not going to be drafting number 1. We're talking about the bad teams. The bad teams that are going to end up with the number 1 overall pick. They will get the opportunity to draft Trevor Lawrence. So let's say the Jets, who are very much headed for that number 1 overall pick, end up with it. Well, then you would absolutely draft Trevor Lawrence if you're the New York Jets. But then what happens to Sam Darnold? See where I'm going here? So Sam Darnold knows that, or he should know that, the Jets, if they end up with the number overall pick, could take him. And if that's the case, which I wouldn't blame the Jets at that point, because again, Trevor Lawrence is a generational talent and probably the best prospect coming out of college since Andrew Luck. You remember the Andrew Luck draft? Like, there was no debate about it. Andrew Luck was going to go number 1 overall. It's the same thing here. And so at that point, Sam Darnold should know the writing on the wall. This would be Josh Rosen 2.0, right? Where Josh Rosen on the Cardinals knows that they take Kyler Murray, and Cardinals try to convince us that Josh Rosen's the starting quarterback moving forward. No, he's not. And then he gets traded, right, to the Miami Dolphins, and Kyler Murray is their starting quarterback. So could a similar situation play out here? And at that point, Sam Darnold would be available via trade for a team that needs a quarterback. Enter the Chicago Bears, all right? So the Chicago Bears in 2021, after this year, we know we are not extending Mitchell Trubisky. Folks, we're just not. Let's not sugarcoat it, all right? They declined his 5th-year option. He has not lived up to his number 2 overall pick standards. And the only way I thought Mitchell Trubisky was going to remain the Bears quarterback in 2021 was if he played out the entire season, which already has not happened. He got benched by Matt Nagy. And if he did play out the entire season and took us to the playoffs and had a very good season, I believe the Bears would have franchised tagged him, right? So at that point, they would have franchise tagged him, and that's how he would remain. But at this point, it's not happening. He's not going to be our quarterback next year. He will be a free agent. And then we've got Nick Foles. Nick Foles, to me, is not a long-term option. Could the Bears start Nick Foles next year? Maybe. But we all know the writing on the wall. It's just a matter of when and not if. Nick Foles has never shown the ability to be a starting long-term option. So why start now? And so at that point, you've got an opening at the quarterback position. And this is where the Bears are probably not going to be bad enough to get a top 10 pick. And so all the good quarterbacks will already have been drafted. And at that point, you're just taking shots later in the first round, other rounds, hoping you get lucky. But there's another way to ensure that you can get a good quarterback, which is via trade. Maybe you trade for Sam Darnold. Now, here are my thoughts on Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, coming out of USC, I thought was going to be decent, solid. Nothing spectacular, but solid. All right, I believe that was a Baker Mayfield draft. And up until this point, for me with Sam Darnold, I mean, Sam Darnold has just been surrounded by garbage. It's the truth, folks. He's just been surrounded by garbage. The Jets have not done any favors to Sam Darnold. They haven't gotten him any weapons, any offensive line. They haven't gotten him a good defense. Nothing. Like, no head coach. Adam Gase is awful. He is garbage. Nothing. So I cannot just look at Sam Darnold's numbers, which I have here, and they aren't impressive because, again, 17 touchdowns, 15 picks, 19 touchdowns, 13 picks, 2,800 yards, 3,000 yards, a 77.6 rating, 84.3 rating. These are not great numbers, but I can't just look at those numbers and just arrive to the conclusion that Sam Darnold isn't good. Because, again, he has not been surrounded by anything. Literally, the Jets have not surrounded him by anything. So I do believe there is something there where Sam Darnold still has some untapped potential. Like, for instance, think about Baker Mayfield, who was in the same draft class. And if you switch spots, you don't think Sam Darnold on the Browns would be able to do what Baker Mayfield's doing? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Baker Mayfield hasn't been that great. And he's been surrounded by so much more talent than Sam Darnold. So, to me, it's very, very possible that Sam Darnold still has some upside left. And so, at that point, that is why I'm saying, could it make sense for the Bears to make a move for Sam Darnold? The only issue here is going to be cost. What is it going to cost Sam Darnold to get Sam Darnold? Well, to get Josh Rosen, the Cardinals got a second-round pick. The Dolphins traded away a second-round pick and a fifth-round pick. So if that is the cost, and it's probably getting more for Sam Darnold, is it worth it at that point? And so to me, I would have to, again, take a look at how the situation is at the end of the season, see how it plays out, and probably assess it at that point. But folks, if it goes, from bad to worse, and, Nick Foles does not look great at all, and we all know they're not extending Mitchell Trubisky, then I would look to explore what the cost is to acquire Sam Darnold, because I'm telling you right now, there's not a lot of quarterbacks out there on the free agent wire in the draft. If you don't have a top pick, probably not ending up with a good quarterback. So I don't think it's the worst idea in the world to just kick the tires on this and see what the cost is to acquire Sam Darnold, because I believe with talent around him, like a good offensive line, like some weapons, like a competent head coach, I think Sam Darnold can thrive. And I think he can be a solid quarterback. And remember this, if you are looking to rebuild and if you're looking to tear down, you cannot completely rebuild with this defense. Meaning you would have to trade away the defense. This defense is too solid to just be wasted on a young quarterback who needs his time. Right? So Sam Darnold has been in the league for a couple of years now. He just needs to have some supporting cast around him. So I'm okay with this. I actually think this rumor, this idea has some legs to it, and I would look to explore this if I am the Chicago Bears. Again, we'll talk about it at the end of the season, but just to give you guys an idea here and let you guys know what I think about it, I don't mind this at all. I think Sam Darnold has been surrounded by garbage, and I think the Bears, if it does not look good with Nick Foles by the end of the season, they should look to see what the cost is to acquire Sam Darnold. So let me know what you guys think. How do you guys feel about Sam Darnold? Let me know down below in the comments if you agree or disagree. As always, thanks for watching.